Good morning, everyone. And yes, it's still morning here in Idaho for another 2.5 minutes. All righty. Well, let's see. I think we only got a couple people here. So let's go in over here. Well, actually, we got more because we got a lot more listed up here in the numbers up in the corner here on StreamYard. So it's saying that there's a lot more watching. So let me check the comments here. And we got first one in was Crew 1351, then Phalen Clan Wolf. And me saying, here we go. And so, yeah. All righty. So we got that there. So let's go back over here. And so we're going to be starting a new novel right here, Blood Moon Falling today. And so let me see here. Let me check something. See how bad yeah. Once again, YouTube doesn't like to count everyone that's watching as watching. So the number is actually watching is higher than actually. Okay, oh, now it just jumped up to 6. So we got 3 more people coming in. Say hi. So we're about ready to get this rolling here. Let me bring this up here. Boom. There we go. Put me up in the upper corner. And there we go. All right. So we're starting the first book of the Tawaki Time series. There's only going to be 3 books in this series. And this was one that several friends told me I had to write. And two trolls went right out the door when they saw that they had to subscribe to make a comment. They couldn't just make derogatory comments and flee into the night like trolls. All right. So anyways, they said I had to go and write this one because this is mentioned in just about every other novel series of the Against the Wind Saga, and they all every single one of them has mentioned Blood Moon Falling, Dying Winter, and Tawaki Time. Well, so they said I have to write them so people can go see what's everything about. So all the stuff I've been mentioning in the other novels about happening in Blood Moon Falling over here, I have to do it. So that's what we're working on here. So let's go ahead and go down to the beginning here. And of course, it's going to be at the wrong magnification. So let's get this up here where I can actually read it and we can talk about it. Blood Moon Falling, Chapter 1, Saturday, Knee Jerk, October 3rd. And make sure nothing. Okay, all right, there we go. It was Saturday just before 3 o'clock, and Phalen Patrick was in the cab of his truck outside the Fuddruckers restaurant. He was debating the merits of going inside and dealing with all of the people that were here to celebrate his 25th birthday. Or, I got to put something here. Or as he'd rather do, sneak off sneaking off and coming up with an excuse like food poisoning or something along those lines. Phalen really disliked public parties, especially at a restaurant like this. There were always too many people around who weren't part of the group making too much noise. He knew it was the case of several. He knew it was the case of the several mild phobias he had since he was little. But that didn't make it any easier to deal with. He liked parties sometimes, like when they were at someone's home or at the lake or any place where access was limited to those who he knew. For some reason, it was the uninvited guests or the unknown persons that made him nervous, and gave him the fight or flight feeling. This party was being thrown by his friends from work. Hang on. Yeah. All right. This with whom he had a special relationship with. Fuddruckers wasn't known for being a quiet place to eat. It was all about it was all of the other people that were in the restaurant that were causing him to suffer one of his phobia attacks right now. He made up his mind and was reaching for the ignition switch when Gary knocked on the window and shouted, "Come on, buddy, the party's starting without you." "Hey, Phalen," one of the two women hanging on Gary's arm said as she winked at him and licked her lips. "Gary and his girls," Phalen said to himself, always trying to be the life of every party. Then he sighed and resigned himself to having to go inside and suffer the noise and the crush of people. He climbed out of his 1965 Dodge Power Wagon crew cab and slowly trudged towards the restaurant door. "Happy birthday, Phalen," called a group of his fellow employees off to his left, heading his way. "Thanks, guys." Hang on, I got to fix this. He said, back with a forced smile. "I thought you would have waited a little longer before braving the hordes," said Mike Chisholm, who's one of the group, when they got to the door. "Yeah." I figured since I spotted, I had to go in. "Besides, maybe I can find the chair in the corner with its back to the wall." "Good luck with that," Mike laughed. And they went inside and found that their boss had reserved the big room, so there was no one else but those who were invited in it. That made Phalen feel a little less anxious. And being that they were behind the folding doors, which were closed most of the way, the noise level was much lower, feeling even better. As Phalen walked in, he was greeted with, "Happy birthday, another year older now, quarter century," and such. As he was shaking hands and making nice, he spotted the only table for two that didn't have anyone at it, or didn't have anyone or anything at it, and quickly slid over to it, dropped his hat on the table, in front of the chair that he now put his jacket on. "Hey, KP, how's it going?" Then he went back to the group for more happy birthdays, handshakes, back slaps, and congratulations. Phalen, Julie, the receptionist from the office, came up to him. "What does the birthday boy want?" Hang on, I got to fix this thing in here. "What does the birthday boy want to eat?" She, hang on here. She added quickly and blushing. "The ribeye steak sandwich, well done," Phalen said with a smile, and added with a wink, "and a vanilla shake." She smiled back, blushing again, and turned to go order his meal. As she walked off, she looked back over her shoulder and started shaking her fanny at him as she went, hoping that he'd finally show some interest and be more than friends. Phalen smiled and gazed after her for a few seconds and sighed. As cute as Julie was, she was too much of a social creature. He sighed again and then turned back to the group and the debate on which football team was going to take which division. After a couple of minutes, Phalen excused himself from that group and moved over to another one, acting the part of the gracious guest of honor, mixing with everyone. He always tried to keep the minimum amount of people to his back as he fought to keep his phobia under control. The next group was talking about the latest political escapade that was headlining the news. He smiled and laughed with them when he really wanted to cry at the sad state of affairs of the government these affairs were causing. He thought to himself that he really needed to get more supplies up to his cabin at the lake. Those that knew about his cabin thought he had plenty. Sorry, I gotta get a cough drop out here. I am just I guess I'll take a secrets. Well, that's part of the problem. The humidity in here is at 29. Oh, one of my throat is sore and scratchy. He, on the other hand, felt that he had way too little there. Phalen glanced back at his table and saw a cute redhead sitting there in the other seat, sitting sideways with her back to the wall. He'd never seen her before and noticed that she did not look very happy about being there. She kept looking around like she expected someone to attack her and was fidgeting with a straw in her soda. In fact, she reminded him of how he usually felt in crowds where he didn't know hardly anyone. The fact that he didn't recognize her, and this was a closed room for a private party, he figured that one of the other employees from work had brought her as a guest. Julie was walking back with his meal and headed to the table. So he headed over there. He headed over. I got the table in there too many times. Headed over to it and got there before she made it to the table. And the unknown, come on, sitting there. Thank you, Julie, Phalen said. Sure thing. You just let me know if you want dessert, she smiled. You mean after the cake, he smiled back. Julie's cheeks turned 3 shades of red, and she quickly turned and started away. Then stopped and turned back. Sure, whatever you want. She turned away again. Phalen chuckled as she retreated. They had flirted like this for a year now, but he couldn't get up the nerve to ask her out. She was cute. No, she was cute. No, she was hot cute. But there was something that said a relationship with her wouldn't last. And he wanted a permanent relationship. Hang on. There we go. And he wanted a permanent relationship with someone for the rest of his life. He turned and headed for the table where his hat and jacket were at, and sat down. He set his milkshake down, picked up his hat, and put it on his head while he held his meal in the other hand, and then set the plate down in its place. Then looking up at the redhead seated across from, he said, "Hi there, you look like you'd rather be anywhere but here at this birthday party." The redhead looked flustered and embarrassed. "I'm sorry, I didn't realize that someone would be sitting here. I didn't know. Hang on. I hang on. It's too many spaces there. There we go. I just thought someone had dropped their hat and coat here and would be sitting at the large tables. She started to get up. Phalen waved her when Phalen waved her to sit back down. That's okay, he smiled. I know exactly how you feel. Really? She asked like she didn't believe him. Oh, yeah, he smiled at her. I have several mild phobias of crowd, noise, and strangers sitting behind me. Wow, you too, she exclaimed. I thought I was the only one that felt like this. Yeah, well, that's why I usually try to grab a table near the door and against the wall when the room is full of strangers. That explains the hat and jacket guarding the table. Yeah, when everyone sees my hat at the table, they generally leave the table alone, Phalen said and nodded towards the crowd. So who'd you come with? Patricia and Bill brought me. She glanced down at her table. She thought I should meet someone named Jerry. Oh, no. No, you don't, Phalen said in a warning voice. Jerry is a party guy. Hang on here. No, that's not right. Get over here, fix this one. Jerry's a people guy. He likes to be around crowds, the center of attention. Oh, no, that's not for me, she said, getting petrified. I need quiet, open spaces. I know what you mean, he replied. I try to spend as much time as I can up at my cabin, way away from the city and noisy crowds. You have a cabin? That's so cool, she said excitedly. I love getting away from the commotion and going camping out in remote areas of national parks. Phalen said to himself as he thought about what she had said. So not so much a Yosemite or Lake Powell shoreline. No, not in the valley floor. I prefer somewhere more remote. I prefer some of the more remote campsites at Zion, Bryce, Sierra Buttes, North Kaibab Trail, places like that. Phalen nodded as he took a bite of his ribeye sandwich. I'm sorry, I'm stopping you from eating, she apologized with embarrassment. Phalen waved her comment off as he chewed quickly and took a slug of his milkshake. No, not at all. It's better to let them eat before you eat it, and the milkshake needs to melt a little bit more. It's too thick. He took another sip of it. He took another sip of the milkshake. Definitely too thick. Hang on, let's get it. Hang on. I did one space. There we go. As you can tell, if those have been here and seen my stuff, you can tell I wrote this back when I wasn't spreading it out so it looked better. So, what's your name, anyway? Jenny Knight, spelled as in white knight? Yeah. Cool. He paused for a second, then asked, so you like camping in the remote areas, which means you like backpacking and hiking? Jenny smiled to herself and said, yeah, in the quiet areas. Phalen nodded and said, so what are your feelings on horses, hunting, and zombies? And he took another bite of his sandwich. Wow. Jenny gasped with wide eyes and leaned back. leaned back in her chair. That's an interesting mix of topics. She paused for a second, looking at him, and then continued. I love horseback riding. I wish I had land to have. I love horseback. Sorry, I love riding horses and wish I had the land to have some. They are an animal that takes room and plenty of take room. If I get my tongue untied here, folks. Okay, I love riding horses and wish I had the land to have some. They are an animal that takes room and time to properly take care of, and they eat a lot, but they are worth it if you can afford them. Phalen nodded as he took a second small bite and motioned for her to continue. Hunting. I sort of have mixed feelings on that. I've gone quail hunting with my mom's half brother. Ow, ow, ow. I fish. Sorry. I fish, even went boar hunting once. I go bow hunting for pheasant and rabbit, but I haven't been up to going after big game. I'm not sure I can kill Bambi or Thedwick. Obviously, you haven't seen Bambi or Thedwick in rut season, Phalen quipped, and then sucked hard on his milkshake, then asked, in zombies? Strictly Hollywood. Not going to happen. She shook her head with a wiry smile. There may be viruses and other natural or man-made. There may be viruses, either natural or man-made, that kill people off, but not that bring them back to life as brain eaters or otherwise. Ow. All right. My joints are killing me. Let me step over here to the bathroom and grab some painkiller. All right. There we go. Man, it just seems I can't hardly do anything this last couple of weeks without hurting myself just sitting around. I don't know how I just in my right here, it just my elbow sitting there on the desk, all of a sudden it's just like pinched a nerve or something. Or otherwise. Okay, speaking of Hollywood, he smiled. What's your favorite or least disliked disaster movie? A toughie, huh? And chewed on it, she thought. I would have to say, hang on, I got to fix some stuff here. The Day After Tomorrow and The Road Warrior are my favorites. The Mel Gibson Road Warrior. She smiled. What are yours? Well, Earthquake, Red Dawn, the original, and of course, the best of all is The Postman. Then Phelan groused. Most of the movies out there have good starts, but tend to end with unrealistic endings or have the facts all screwed up. And ignore them. I agree, Jenny said. I guess Hang on. Gee. I guess they can't make it too real or it wouldn't do well in the theaters. And what about you and horses and hunting? I have 4 horses up at my cabin. I hunt fowl, deer, elk, bear twice. And I would like to go buffalo hunting at least once, but not until I get a couple more chest freezers for the meat. I don't hunt for sport, and my freezers are full right now. Do you garden? What's the word I'm looking for? Not lyra. Oh, I got it spelt right. And I want to pick out a different word than that. Shift F7. Carefully, thoughtfully, vigilantly guard. There we go. There's the word I'm looking for. Insert. Yes, we're Whirly. Phalen smiled. He realized she was fishing for information on him as he was on her. Not much of one here. Just some plastic 55-gallon barrels cut in half for carrots, tomatoes, trellis melons, Swiss chards, and some herbs. I have a few fruit trees at the cabin, but I can't maintain a garden there while living down here. How many acres do you have? She asked as she leaned forward on her elbows and cupped her chin in her hands. What to call it? She broke the. This was the first time she broke the space barrier. And got closer to him. Phalen hesitated on discussing how much land he owned because some of the women he had dated equated land with vast wealth. So he generally under-exaggerated what he had. A little over 20 acres. So you're on one of those vacation home developments where your neighbors are still in shouting distance? Not really. The nearest neighbor is more than a few miles away. It's pretty remote and it takes hours to get to. That sounds so cool. Is there a stream on your property or a lake nearby? She started to continue asking about the property when she realized she didn't know his name or whether hang on, let me get the spaces in here. Okay, that one's backwards. She paused. Let's see. First, 2 things I was wondering. Okay. Phalen smiling to himself, seeing some social panic in her eyes. What's your name and uh, are you married? There we go. Are you married? She asked like she was stepping in a minefield. Phalen laughed and reared back in his seat. I'm sorry. I'm Phalen Patrick, and no, I'm not married. Then, for some reason, he quickly added, we're currently seeing anyone. He smiled sheepishly. Jenny showed visible signs of relief. Thank goodness. Thank goodness I wasn't treading where I shouldn't. She held out her hand. It's very nice to meet you, Phalen, you said? Yes, it means wolf. And he shook her hand. That's so cool. What's its origins? Phelan was about to answer her when he was cut off from across the room. Ow, 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 ow. Hang on here. All right, just checking something. All right, let me make sure. And just see if that changes anything. Okay. All right. Where was I? Hey, Phelan, Gary yelled, get up here, birthday boy. Phelan groaned as he stood up. Excuse me while I get embarrassed. He smiled weakly and turned and walked over to the front of the room where Gary stood. Here he is, Gary said loudly. Our own birthday boy, Phalen Patrick, 25 and still single. Or is it still a virgin, too? You're just jealous that you don't have something pure for your future wife, Phalen retorted. Everyone said, ooh, and Gary moaned, ouch, as a couple of the girls gave out cat calls or whistles. Then, with a smile on his face, Gary started to open his mouth with a comeback when a big hand came down firmly on his shoulder. Gary, I think you just got nuked with that retort. You best withdraw while the ladies still love you, their boss said with a grin. Gary nodded and Phalen gave Phalen a fist bump and sank back into the arms of the two women he came with. Phalen, his boss said, or his boss began, since you moved here 7 years ago from Los Angeles and came to work with me, you've been a very loyal employee and a good friend. You don't like crowds and that you don't like being the center of attention like this, but this is a special occasion, and we would like to think you are. We would like to think that we are your extended family, and that gives us a little bit of leeway with making you uncomfortable. You guys have been like a family to me, and thank you for taking me in. Even Gary has been like a big bossy and obnoxious older brother. My pleasure, bro, Gary said with a devilish smile. So, his boss continued, as any good family will keep your discomfort to a minimum and let you go sit back down. After we sing happy birthday to you. He raised his arm with a big sweeping motion and brought it back down with a drawn out happy, and the whole room broke into singing happy birthday. After the song was done, Phalen was the proper shade of red. His boss shook his hand, handed in an envelope. Spend it on your cabin, he said with a smile and a wink. Phalen thanked him graciously and slipped the envelope into his shirt through a gap between the buttons without opening it. As he made his way back to his table, several others handed him cards and gift bags. By the time he sat down, Phalen had 3 gift bags and 19 envelopes/cards. Wow, I didn't realize I was sitting with the man of the hour, Jetty said with a smile. Hang on. With a snicker and a smile. Yeah, uh, yeah, he said with a sheepish grin. I'm the gun. So your boss said you moved here from LA? Why here? Do you have family here? I have an uncle that lived here that said I could stay with him after high school. Uncle Jake got me the job with Desert Construction, but he got transferred back east 2 years ago. I'm staying in his house because he wants to retire here and didn't want to sell it. Didn't want to sell it. And didn't want strangers living in it. So I live there and keep it up for the rent. That's really cool of him. Yeah, he took me in after high school when my family died in an apartment fire. Hang on a minute. I remember this. I think this here is a. I gotta. I gotta do a search here. Hang on. I've got to because I thought later on I made this. I had the story of as it being a car wreck. So hang on. Uh, 25 results. Okay, let's go take a look at these 25s and see what they. Hang on. Got too many other things that have 25. Yeah, got rid of a bunch of them. All right. Okay, that's I'll fix that one when I get to that. All right. Get the goop out of my eyes here. Oh, dang. No wonder I can't see. My eyes are hurting. My glasses are filthy. Filthy. And I want to clean these things up here. This is going to take a. If I don't clean them every couple of days, they get really nasty, and that's what these did. All right. Okay. Now, ah, there we go. Oh, I can see. If I wouldn't get dinged, I break it out of that song. I can see clearly now. All right. Okay, I'm going to change this. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Got it changed back. Got it changed to car fire. Oh, I'm so sorry. Nobody should have to go through that, Jenny exclaimed as she reached across the table and wrapped his hands with hers. Phalen looked up from the table and saw her staring intently at him. He met her gaze and saw something he rarely saw in anyone's eyes: painful concern. She really she really meant it when she said she's sorry. Most people only kind of mean it, but she actually feels pain for me, he thought to himself. What? Jenny asked as her expression changed from one of concern to one of curiosity. What do you mean what? Your face suddenly got a blank look to it, and your mouth just hung open. I'm sorry. It's just that when anyone hears about my family, the first thing they say is, I'm sorry, as if that's supposed to make it all better. But when you said I could see hurt in your eyes for me, I rarely see that, never with the intensities that your eyes showed. Jenny blushed a little as she tilted her head to the side and looked down and squeezed his hands a little more. That's because it's something else we share besides our phobias, she said. I never knew who my father was, and my mother died when I was 3 years old. My grandmother raised me, so I don't remember the passing of my mother. I still feel some some great hole at times. Hang on. Though. Well, hang on. Let me do this. 1, 2, 3. To quote their dome. Well, ain't we a pair? Phalen said with a sigh and a smile. We could be, Jenny. Jenny blurted out quick and quickly covered her mouth. I didn't mean to say that. I'm not that. I'm not that type of person. I think I should go. She started to stand up. No, Phalen said quickly and sharp. Then softly, please stay. Jenny sat back down in her seat and looked at Phalen. I didn't want to embarrass you or anything. You're right. We could be a pair. Phalen held up an index finger on his right hand. But we need to get to know each other before we let our hormones run wild. Jenny blushed and looked down at the table. You're right. Hey, Phalen said sternly. I said our hormones, not your hormones. He placed a strong emphasis on the word our. I know I sense something about you that is special, and I believe you do too about me. Hang on here. Oh, wrong. Oh, but there we go. I did. She started to say quickly and turned a darker shade of red. Ditto. Don't worry about accidental entendres. He smiled. Unless you mean it, and it flops. I hope it doesn't flop. Jenny snickered slyly as she busted out with an uncontrollable laughing fit. I'm sorry, but that was funny. That was funny. But we need to be careful. Everyone will think we're having fun and they'll come over to join in. Get some spaces in here. I know, but it was so funny. She gasped out, trying to regain her composure. So we both suffer from personal family loss. We don't believe in zombies. We kind of like disaster movies. We like to do camping, gardening, hunting, and horses, she added, as she got her laughter and breathing under control. What about food? Phalen asked. What will you absolutely, not eat? Brussels sprouts and mushrooms. I'm not a fungus. You are what you eat. She took a breath. Lima beans, eggplants, top of my do not like list. I would prefer not to eat bell pepper, most squash, beets, asparagus. We have a special guest here, folks. Here he is, the amazing Oliver. I'm not amazing. Yeah, you are. No. Aren't you special? I know. You're not special. We think you are. What do you need, Oliver? I'm hungry. You're hungry. After that big can of beefy mac, the hot dog, bowl of cereal. Wait, I didn't have a bowl. Oh, you didn't have a bowl of cereal yet? Okay. Guys, I'll be right back. I'm going to get him a bowl of cereal. All right, so hang on. I'll be right back. Okay. Yep. He wanted Rice Krispies with a little honey drizzled on it. All right. For the next 20 minutes, they talked about the foods they hated, liked, loved. Then they switched. Then they switched to books. They were surprised they had read a lot of the same ones. Then movies other than Damascus movies. It turned out they both liked the old silver screen cowboy movies. Their conversation would be interrupted by someone giving Phalen a birthday card or envelope. The conversation moved on to dancing, TV shows. Soon, an hour had slipped by when they breached the subject of politics. They both let out a sigh of relief when they agreed upon party and an opinion of big government and the giveaway programs. party and an opinion of big government and the giveaways that giveaway programs that, in their shared opinion, stole from the working people. No more. No, looking for anybody new comments. All right. Wow, I have to admit, I was a little worried when you held back to formulate your answer. Okay, how do you want me to tease you? Phalen asked with a mischief twinkle in his eye. Jenny blushed and winked, blushed with a wicked smile. That's for me to know and you to earn the knowledge. I can accept that, Phalen nodded as he picked up his milkshake and took a long draw on the straw, passed it over to Jenny, and waited for her to give the straw a big sip. Here's a big question. How many kids do you want to have? Jenny almost choked on the mouthful of milkshake, but was able to keep on sucking as she thought how to answer his question. Phalen chuckled at the expression on his face, and he opened his mouth to make a double entendre remark, but stopped and shook his head with a silly smile on his face. Finally, she released the straw and spoke. No more than my husband and I can take care of. Your husband? Phalen asked with a issue. Come on. All right, there we go. Your husband, Phalen asked with a sudden flood of panic on his face. Whoever that may be, Jenny said with a blasé attitude, followed by a twinkle in her eye. Sighed and I want to change that. Phalen sighed, then smiled and bobbed his head up and down, pleased with her answer. How many do you want to have? She asked with a sly grin. He thought for a few seconds and spoke slowly. I think I would like to be able to afford and be able to take care of a family as big as my great-grandmother's. She used to tell me such stories of the great times they had together growing up on the ranch. How many was that? 14, Phalen answered as he watched what her reaction would be. Jenny straightened up and took a shallow gasp and held it as she thought about the number he gave. Then her jaw slowly pushed forward as she sucked her lower lip in and bit. And bit it, and then tilted her head to one side as she did a slowly head hob bob, and her head slowly nod bobbed. I can see how that would be good for kids, for the kids if the parents were able to afford it. But but then they lived on a ranch and probably raised most of what they needed. True, but they also sold cattle, pigs, and sheep, so they had a decent income too. So what was the makeup of the kids? 9 boys, 5 girls, 3 dogs, a half dozen cats or so in the barns. Sounds nice, she said with a deep sigh. I just wish it was affordable. She took a breath and blew it out. But enough of that. Moved her hands. Less dismissively. What's your favorite gun? Nice switch, but no go. What do you do for a living? I studied to be a nurse. My phobias got worse. I went back to school and got an MBA for health care administration. So now I work in an office of a small doctor's group with my back to the wall, she said with emphasis on the last 5 words. Phalen laughed harder. Cute. Jenny broke up laughing too. Now, what do you do at Desert Construction? I'm an operating engineer. What does that mean? I run dozers, backhoes, excavators, cranes, and stuff. Cool. Now, what's your favorite gun? So, what's my favorite gun? Phalen repeated the question thoughtfully, then said, there's no such thing. What do you mean? It's like asking, what's your favorite tool? It doesn't have an answer unless you quantify it with a specific task, like cutting down trees, digging a hole, elk hunting, fighting off brigands, or competition shooting. They all have certain requirements, and those set what general type of gun or tool you need. Then from the list of general tools or guns, you would need to choose a favorite one for the task set. That makes sense. But my uncle said his favorite knife was an old-timer 3-blade knife. He wouldn't go anywhere without it. Phalen chuckled. Yep, that is a very good knife to have on you all the times. You can't knife fight with it very well, but you can make someone else die of 1,000 paper cuts if it's kept kept sharp. Yeah, got to make sure you say it in all the letters. If you last that long, yes, if you last that long, Phalen agreed. But that's where having the right tool comes in. But there has to be a good basic pistol and rifle, Jenny said, almost as a question. There are light-duty jobs and heavy-duty jobs, so it depends on the load you have in your gun. A 357 snake shot will work on snakes, rabbits, and birds up close, and the average burglar, but it's not going to stop a car, bring down a deer or a coyote or a pissed off biker type. That's where you have to have different ammo. Okay, I get that, she said, paused with a scrunched up face. Ow. I can't even talk here now for a second. Sore shoulder muscles still hurting. Need more drugs. Let's see here. She said with a paw. She said, then paused with a scrunched face as she sought to put her thoughts in order. So you have different weapons and or ammunition for hunting than you would say for, come on, back there. That than you would say, or target practice or home protection or Armageddon. Yes, although most hunting ammunition would work for Armageddon, or fighting an evil army an evil army invading, or brigadiers on the loose. Just as some military spec ammunition could be used for hunting, but it'd be a waste of ammunition and meat to shoot a deer with a high-speed, armor-piercing or heat rounds, HE rounds. You'd blow it apart and all the excess kinetic energy. But that's not to say it wouldn't be fun using it on some brigands. Phalen smiled. With an evil grin, not grim. Have you ever shot anyone? She asked cautiously. Not yet, and I hope I never do, he answered with apprehensive eyes. But, she queried gently, can tell when things but you can never tell when things are going to turn south and go to hell in a handbasket, as my grandmother used to say. Tuwaki, she said grimly. Yeah, Phalen said with a slight smile. For the next 30 minutes, they talked about everything from solar power systems to they already talked about politics, so I got to pull that one out of there. Appliances, I already talked about gardening. The other skills one needs. They were only interrupted by Julie bringing them some of the cake, bringing them some cake, and others dropping off birthday cards or presents. Would you like to go out? Phalen suddenly asked himself, suddenly surprising himself as much as Jenny. Sure. When? That depends on what you would like to do. Yep. Well, I was going to go to Dick's Sporting Goods tomorrow morning for their sale. For the Sunday special sale. Just then, Patrick and Bill walked up, and Patricia spoke. Hey, Phalen. We hate to break this up, but we have to get home and take Patty to a slumber party. And I don't know if Jenny told you that we're her ride. Hey, thanks for coming. Phalen said as he stood up and held his hand out to him. You know, if Jenny wants, I can take her home. Are you sure, Bill asked. Yeah, it's not a problem, Phalen smiled. Is that okay with you, Jenny? Sure, Jenny practically shouted and turned red at her exuberance. Patricia smiled. Okay, then. I'll see you Monday evening for the canning class. See you Monday, Phalen, Bill said as he walked away with his wife. Canning class? Phalen asked when Patricia and Bill were out of earshot. Yeah, Patricia and I are learning how to do home canning and dehydrating. It's really cool and saves money, she chirped. Plus, it'd come in handy if things turned to crud and I had to live off the land growing my own food. All you need to do is learn how to butcher animals and you'll be a good pioneer wife. Only if I have a good pioneer husband. Suddenly, Gary yelled for everyone to shut up. He was standing looking at the TV, which no longer had the baseball game on, but a flashing banner saying "Breaking News." Quiet, Gary yelled one more time. Mike stood on a chair and reached up and turned. Oh, hang on a second. Guys, I got a slight little emergency going on. Give me about 2 minutes. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry for the interruption. Yeah, yeah. So, my daughter's having to take the two boys got in a fight, taken to the doctor's office or to the urgent care room, and so they had to send one of the other boys over here, and he decided to go running off down the street and had to go yell and get him to come back up here. Stubborn boys. Where was I? Okay, Mike stood on the chair, reached up and turned to the TV and turned the volume up. Has confirmed that a planetoid that has moved through the asteroid belt and it is on a collision course. No, it's on a course that will bring it very close to the Earth. Whether or not the planetoid is on a collision course with the Earth is not known at this time. There is also concern with our source about the possibility of smaller asteroids that may have been caught in its gravitational pull that we cannot hang on, put this that we can't. Right, come on, you stupid thing. There we go. That we cannot see or have knocked ahead of the planetoid and may may collide with the Earth. What our sources do say is that the planetoid is due to be in proximity to the Earth in about 3 weeks. Someone off camera handed this just in. The president will address the nation in about 1.5 hours. Now, let me correct that. About an hour and a half. Yeah, got that. There's a proper thing for it. Stay tuned to the station for further updates. We now return you to your return you to your scheduled program. This has been Mike. Turn the TV off. All right, everyone. Phalen's boss. Boom. Let's all go home in an orderly manner. No speeding or other reckless behavior. All right. We don't know much. No sense in getting hurt over the unknown. Phalen was already at the door with Jenny hot on his heels. We're going to make a few stops on the way to your home. Fine by me. What are we getting? Supplies. When they were in the parking lot, Phalen led Jenny to his 65 Dodge Power Wagon crew cab and unlocked the passenger door for her and ran around to the driver's side. Jenny quickly climbed in and reached across and unlocked and opened the door for him. Thanks, he said as he hopped in the driver's seat. Now buckle up and hang on. Phalen pulled out of the parking space and cranked the steering wheel hard to the right and stepped on the accelerator. Not hard enough to break traction, but hard enough to get past the people streaming out of the restaurant before they got into his aisle and blocked his exiting. Glancing in the mirror, he saw the jam up as some cars were trying to back out while people were hurrying around and behind and in front of them, blocking them from getting out. Phalen turned left as soon as there was a gap in the traffic and headed north on South Priest Drive, working his way through traffic. Pulling his cell phone from his pocket, Phalen called a number he had on speed dial. Hey, Dave, you still in the store? Phalen listened for the reply and smiled when Dave said he was. Great. I'll be there in about 6 minutes. I got 10 grand to spend tonight. You want some of it? He smiled bigger at Dave's exuberant reply. Jenny eyed Phalen with surprise at his statement. Ow. Damn. Oh. Hang on. There we go. There. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to get something to wrap this elbow with. Get it like my little exercise pads for putting it on because the table's rather hard. All right, see, they continued to drive north on South Priest until they'd gone about 4.5 miles. And Phalen turned left into the back service aisle of a mini shopping center, stopped about halfway down along the building, and honked twice on the horn. The outside light came on, and Phalen read the sign above, and Jenny read the sign above the door, said S&S Firearms. Tool shopping time. One of several stops we need to make. It's not tonight. It's not, hang on. It's not dark time yet. It is. Hang on a second here. Where are we at? We're at page 13. Let me go back to the beginning. Just before 3 o'clock, Phalen probably spent about a half an hour wandering around talking to everybody before he sat down next to Jenny. They talked for at least an hour and a half. So it's 5 o'clock. What are we at here? $13. Yeah, there we are. So it's about 5 o'clock, October. Let me check something here. Right, because I wasn't, when I wrote this up, it wasn't like the other novels where I got all these things have to connect. This is just a standalone novel, so things I wasn't too worried about. October 3rd. Sunset is 7. So we're looking at I'm doing calculations here, guys. Bear with me. So it's in 4, 5, 2 hours, 5 o'clock, 2 more hours before sunset. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out. And we're back here. Yeah, back there. All right. So the light does not need to be on. Outside one of the shops, and Jenny read the sign above the door. It said S. Okay, yeah. Tool shopping time. One of several stops we need to make today. Phalen said as he climbed out of the big old Dodge 1-ton. If you're with me on this, with you, she smiles. Hang on. Hang on, I gotta check something here for my daughter. Left pork roast. Yeah. So my daughter's heading to the emergency room. She just texted me. She left the pork roast in the oven at 350. It's been in for an hour, fully defrosted, but it's about 5 pounds. So I'm going to find out how long it's going to take for that to go before I got to go run over there to do it. So it's covered in foil. Okay. Oh, All right. With you, she smiled. She held her hand up next to her head as if she was showing level height. Definitely with you. Phalen smiled broadly as he got her reference to the movie Night and Day. Cute. The door opened and a dark-haired, middle-aged man poked his head out and said, "Come on, Phalen. The shit's hitting the fan." Phalen and Jenny hurried inside and Dave locked the door behind them. "So what do you need, Phalen?" Dave said as he ushered towards the front. "Ammo, several new guns, and lots of ammo," Phalen said with emphasis on the latter half. "Just for you or your lady friend, too." Phalen hesitated for a second, and Jenny answered him. "A couple of pistols, Mini 14, and even more ammo." "Okay, which ones?" Phalen picked out a pair of Ruger Super Red Hawks model 5505, which he had been eyeing for some time. They were chambered in 454 casual, which was a kind of a misnomer as dual chambering allowed it to also accept factory 45 long Colt cartridges. A couple of belt and shoulder holsters, uh, several sets of speed loaders. He also bought 5,000 rounds of the 454 ammunition and 10,000 rounds of 45 long ammunition. The 45 ammunition will also work in his 45 1892 saddle rifle he had up at his cabin. Next, he got a Ruger precision rifle model 180-10 chambered for 243 Winchester with 6 500 round cans of ammunition. This would be his long-range sniper rifle for the cabin, and in a pinch he could use it for hunting. Not that he saw that he would ever need to use it for hunting. He planned on making a heavy-duty suppressor for it for better concealment. Then he picked out the Winchester Model 94 Trails and Takedown chamber for 30-30 Winchester with 20-inch barrel. Also got six, also with 6 500 round cans of ammunition. Lastly, he got a pair of Mossberg 500 Flex with a full accessory package. One of the model 56 model 5067-3 in 12 gauge with a 6-round magazine with 18.5-inch barrel and 31-inch overall length for himself, and the model 54 317 in 20 gauge for Jenny. He also got 5,000 rounds of 5,000 rounds for each shotgun in various loads, including 500 rounds of slugs. Jenny picked out a Ruger Mini 14 Tactical in 300 blackout with standard 20 round magazine. She also picked up 5 30-round magazines and got 3,000 rounds of 300 rounds of 223 ammunition for it. Then she selected 3 Ruger SP-22 in model 3620. They were 22 long rifle pistols that had 10-round magazines and a barrel length of 4.5 inches. Weighing in at 8.7 ounces, they were something she can handle very easily. She also got 3 Ruger silent SR suppressors for them. At home, Jenny already had a Ruger 1022 with a 22-inch barrel and a Leupold VX6 7-42 by 56 millimeter side focus target scope that her granduncle gave her for her 18th birthday, and she wanted plenty of ammunition for it and the pistol, so she bought 10 1,600 round buckets of 22 long rifle ammunition for them. She also picked up another Ruger silent SR suppressor for it as well. Oh. Finally, she also grabbed a Smith & Wesson 460 XVR revolver chambered in .45 Colt with the 8 3/8-inch barrel and 2,000 rounds for it. This would be her heavy hitter for big problems like bear or brigands. Then, almost as an afterthought, she got 5,000 rounds of 9mm ammunition for the pair of Smith & Wesson 639 she had at home. After everything was paid for, hang on a minute, I think someone just tried running it going out the door. Let me go check. No, just a boy going in the bathroom. Okay. After everything was paid for, they loaded it all onto the floor of the back seat of Phalen's Dodge and covered it with a couple wool blankets that Phalen had in the side boxes on the truck. So I broke the ammunition purchase out and backdated over several dates of the month, so it won't set off any red flags. If you need more, I can set it aside so you can pick it up then, Dave said with a wink. We'll see what the president says in his address tonight. Yeah, Dave sighed. There may be a run on supplies everywhere tonight and tomorrow. Are you worried about the store? A little. Dave looked around out of caution. Matthew's coming with food in about an hour. He will spend the night here with me. Good, Phalen nodded at the thought of Dave's nephew staying with his friend to watch the store. Call me after the president's address if you think you'll need any help watching the store. I will. Diane is getting the fifth wheel ready to head up to the lake at a moment's notice. Dave took a deep breath and let it out through his nose. If things go south, we'll see you up there. You bet. He smiled big for the second time. He smiled big for a second before it left his face. Have you heard from Mick or Brian? Not yet, but Brian was supposed to head up there yesterday with another cargo container, and Mick was picking up a truck in Provo. He should be back tomorrow. Phalen nodded, knowing the cell service was almost non-existent up there. I'll try to raise them on the radio when I get home and let you know what I find out. Thanks. Talk to you later, Dave. Grabbed Phalen's hand and shook it firmly. Phalen nodded as he opened up the truck door for Jenny and closed it once she was in. Then hurried around to the driver's side, hopped in. Next stop, Costco. Okay, so it's been almost an hour and a half. And let's see. Let me see. Hang here. So this is there. Late afternoon starts at 16. The evening is 21. 5 pages. We'll just go ahead and go do 5 pages here of chapter 2. Now that should be able to get that done in about 20 minutes. Put us at the 2-hour mark. Chapter 2, Saturday, panic buying. October 3rd, late afternoon. Yes, Mr. President, Secretary of Homeland Security Williamson spoke with frustrated urgency in his voice. The planetoid is heading towards us, and no, we don't know if it will hit us or not. It will definitely come close to the Earth, so it may hit us or the moon, or miss us completely. We don't know if it's dragging any smaller asteroids behind it. But there isn't anything we can do about that, Mr. President, until we know more of its trajectory. FBI Director Johnson interjected. What we need is to try to control the public's reaction to the threat in all of the varying possibilities, such as, the president asked. Well, we can divide them into several categories. The most dangerous will be it's the end of the world, so I can do what I want group. This group can be subdivided into rioters and killers. He paused to observe everyone's expression as to whether or not they understood what he was getting at, then continued. Then there's the I'll do anything to protect my family group. This group will start out as 2 subgroups, offensive and defensive. The defensive group will be those that hunker down and use any means to protect what's theirs. The offensive group will be those that go out and take what they think they need from anyone who has it. Things get bad enough, the defensive subgroup will turn to the offensive group's actions. He paused and let everyone digest what he'd said. Then there are the opportunists. One subgroup will be price gougers. Another will be thieves who will go out and steal anything they think they need, or anything they need, supplies they need that they can't steal. They will try to avoid physical violence with others just to maintain anonymity. Another subgroup will be the scroungers. They will take what is not claimed by someone else, items they deem to be abandoned. These are most of your law-abiding citizens and won't become active until things get really bad or we take a hit from the planetoid. It's the I can do what I want group that will cause us the most problems, and almost immediately when the news breaks the story. We are trying to contain it so you can make the announcement first, but it looks like someone is leaking it to local news markets, and they're going to jump the gun and release it before your press conference to get the it's leaking to local press markets before your press conference to get the position as the best source of information and be able to charge more for sponsors. Okay, now I get it. Press conference. So they can get the position as best source. Yeah, all right, there we go. There we go. Cleared that one up. Yeah. Yeah. So, but it looks like someone is leaking it to news markets, and they are going to jump the gun and release the story before your press conference, so they can get the position as the best source for information and be able to charge more from the sponsors. We can only do so much leveraging with the news because of the internet leaks. Secretary Williamson broke it back in. The major networks refuse to be left out of the spotlight of a leading story. So what do we do about the what did you call them? Oh yeah, the I can do as I want group. How do you suggest we handle them? The president asked. Secretary Williamson and Director Johnson looked at each other and then nodded. Then Secretary Williamson spoke. We put restrictions in place just short of martial law. Order that all prices are fixed, no increases are allowed. No hoarding by companies or individuals. We can't really institute a curfew because the economy is 24/7 nowadays, but we should limit the we should limit the by the glass sales of alcohol drinks because we don't need a bunch of drunks getting stupid across the nation. I agree with all that, Director Johnson added, and I believe we need to place the National Guard on standby. We only have 3 weeks until the planetoid arrives. We need to be ready for the worst case scenario, and that may come in the next report from NASA. I concur with the exception that you need to place all branches of the military national and state, as well as the Coast Guard, on high alert, not standby. We need to be ready to move at half a moment's notice. Came the somber voice of General Radcliffe, the Secretary of Defense, who was standing off the side of the table, looking at a couple of the monitors that were displaying the data from NASA. I may not be an astrophysicist, but I can plot the course of an object with this. Hang on here. It will. Oh, the moon will be between the Earth and the planetoid when it gets here. If it's going to hit the Earth, it's going to rub paint with the moon, but more likely it'll make contact with the moon, whether it is a glancing blow or a dead center impact. The Earth is going to catch a boatload of debris, and we need to be ready to respond. What do you have in mind, General? When we determine the date and time that the planetoid is going to pass, make sure the Navy has all of its ships on the opposite side of the world. Also, take into account when the debris starts raining down, that they can move to areas that will be less likely to be impacted by it. The same with as many troops, planes, and equipment as it can. If it's right here at home, perfect. If it's in the Indian Ocean or Japan or South Africa or even the North Pole or South Pole, then that's where we put them. Then they can be called home to help clean up. Also, we need to move all military supplies from coastal states inland. Some to military bases, some to reserve unit camps, National Guard bases, training centers, ROTC equipment yards, and the like. Yes, you'll have riots and lootings and killing sprees, but that won't count for spit in comparison to several massive chunks of rock wiping out a couple cities. We need to be ready to recover is all I'm saying, General Ratcliffe explained. What about the people? What do we do about them? Just let them die? The president asked. I can't accept that. We need the people to grow our food and to work in the factories to make the goods we want. Mr. President, General Ratcliffe said with a slight grin. To quote Captain Jack Sparrow, the only rules that matter are these: what a man can do and what a man can't do. So, Mr. President, can you try to save those that will give us the best chance of survival? Give us the best chance of saving the human race, or can't you? Save what I can and hope that's enough. What are you saying? Is that what you're saying, General? General walked to the table where the president sat. What I'm saying is a man can only do what a man can do and nothing more. You have to figure out what you can do. He leaned forward with his knuckles on the table and do it. The president sucked his lips in and chewed them as he thought deeply. Then he looked up at the general. I can do a lot today, he said to himself. Hang on here. Good, they think. There we go. Then to himself, he thought, good, they think that I'm going to try to save everyone I can. We will use this to cull the free thinkers. Mark Chisholm was talking to one of the Goal Zero sale reps at the end of the at the end cap booth in Costco. He was checking out the Goal Zero Yeti 400 solar generator battery pack. He was in town visiting his brother and picking up some gear for his job as the outrider for one of the cattle companies to the northeast. He was going to be stationed at the West Line Shack for the winter, and he wanted a power source for his laptop and Kindle. So the Yeti 400 will work great for keeping your electronics charged, and it's light enough for you to pack on your horse. But the Yeti 150 would be better for that. Now, if you want any sort of power for, say, an electric blanket, the Yeti 1250 would be better, the sales rep said. Okay. But I would think you don't need the 1250. Just one or two of the 400s. That way you can switch off between them and make sure they're fully charged. And I can give you a special discount for two Yeti 400s with two of the new Nomad 100-watt solar panels for the cost of just the solar panels. The other rep said as he put a Yeti 1250 kit on hang on another customer's cart. So let's see. How about two of the Yeti 400s and you toss okay, I just threw some stuff in here before. I need to actually look at this to see what I can do. Um, hang on, let me change this around here. Control C. How about THR? And what was the other one up there? The other one was the Control C. You toss in Control C. How about three of the Nomad 100-watt panels and you toss in the 1250 for free? We can make that work, the first rep said. Just then, Mark's cell phone chirped, let him know that he had received a text message. He pulled out the phone and saw it was from his brother. Let me check this text quick. He opened the message and read it twice because he didn't believe he read it right the first time. Then he called his brother. Mike, I'm at Costco. What do you need me to get? He nodded slowly. Okay. Yes, will do. Then he hung up the phone. And turned back to the sales rep. Give me one Yeti 1250. Hang on. Hang on. Let me. Is it? Control C. Control V. I'm sorry. And uh, uh, Hang on, let me get here. Okay. And what and a 150 with light. And smiled. I'm just going to make this down. We can make that work with 2 of the lights. Done. Load me up, Mark said with a forced smile. They loaded his cart with the items and wrote out a discount coupon for him to use at checkout. Then Mark hurried over to the batteries and grabbed 2 cases of the Sanyo E-Loop rechargeable batteries only, and 4 of the charger battery combo packs. Then he headed off to the bulk foods. On his way, he spotted a bulk flat cart that appeared to be abandoned, so he grabbed it. When he got to the bulk food aisle, he loaded several 50-pound bags of rice, beans, sugar, and flour. Next, he stopped at number 10 can section and got several cases of peaches, pears, diced tomatoes, tomato sauce, and Stag's chili. On the way to the checkout lines, he stopped and added 10 cases of canned mandarin oranges. When he got outside to his brother's truck that he was using, he quickly loaded it and checked the credit card balance. He had several thousands of credit left on it. Paying it off monthly has its advantages, he smiled to himself. Climbing in the cab, he started the truck and drove around the parking lot to the other side. He threw a blanket over the stuff in the back seat and went back in to get more. There was not any sign of panic shoppers yet, so he grabbed one of the big flat carts and went and got it loaded with 50-pound bags of rice and beans mostly. Then he grabbed cases of noodles, macaroni, and spaghetti, and topped it off with several packages of toilet paper. At the checkout, he decided to use his other credit card. He didn't want to get flagged for 2 purchases at the same store by the computer system, thinking it had been stolen. With everything loaded in the back of the F-250, he locked the camper shell and headed off to Dick's Sporting Goods. He needed more shots for his rifle and shotgun. He was pulling out when he saw his brother Mike pulling in. Mark pulled out a cell phone and called Mike and told him what he picked up already and where he was going. Seeing that Mike was driving his F-5500 work truck from Desert Construction and the flatbed was empty, Mark told him to get more toilet paper, rice, and beans. All right. All right. So we're going to stop it here. Highlight that yellow. Okay. And hang on a second here. Okay. And all right. So we're going to stop here. I got it highlighted in yellow for picking up tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday. Yeah. So tomorrow morning, we will pick it up there. No, tomorrow noon Mountain Time, 2 o'clock Eastern. Tomorrow night is the midnight ride with Gray Man Prepping. You got some interesting news articles to share with you for that. Friday morning, we'll continue on with this. Well, it's a morning for me. All right, so Friday 2 o'clock Eastern, we'll continue on with this. Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern for the topic is you might be a homesteader if. And then Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, maybe 9, depending on how things go. What I want to get done Friday morning. I may start a little bit early on it, and we will do this. My live stream with Shadow Scout Swede will be at 3 p.m. Eastern. And then again at 8 p.m. will be, actually, I forgot what that one is again. Oh, that is one of the after the event ones. The event is after the Mississippi River fault splits. What are your plans? And so that's what's going on for now. And we'll get more information for you for what's starting next week tomorrow. All right, everyone, take care, and I will see you around.